Avenue, and how your commander-in-chief has chosen politics over the lives of American soldiers. Now, the Washington Post, Bob Woodward, he got his hands on an early copy of Gates' book, which is titled Duty, and it reveals that when it comes to President Obama's commitment to the war in Afghanistan, that by 2010, he wrote that Obama, quote, doesn't believe in his own strategy and doesn't consider the war to be his. For him, it's all about getting out. And that's not all. The memoir also reveals that Obama is not above playing politics when it comes to military strategy. Another quote reads, quote, Hillary Clinton told the president that her opposition to the 2007 surge in Iraq had been political because she was facing him in the Iowa primary. The president conceded vaguely that opposition to the Iraq surge had been political. Now, to hear the two of them making these admissions in front of me was as surprising as it was dismaying. And here's where things get really interesting. When it comes to good old Uncle Joe Biden, Woodward writes in his column, quote, though the book simmers with disappointment in Obama, it reflects outright contempt for Vice President Biden and many of Obama's top aides. Biden is accused of poisoning the well against the military leadership. And earlier today, the White House, in a move that proves this book is in fact hitting a nerve, invited cameras to film the president's weekly lunch with the vice president. Well, it's hard to argue this was not a political move, but of course, Jay Carney said it was just a coincidence. And tonight, by the way, we always want you to join the conversation. Just log on to our Facebook page and tell us what you think. And of course, you can sign off and sound off on Twitter using the hashtag Hannity. At Sean Hannity is my Twitter address. At Ainsley Earhart. She's here tonight. She's going to be monitoring your comments all night. She'll be joining us later to share them with us in just a little bit. And joining me now to react to all these developments, columnist, author Patrick J. Buchanan, Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Juan, I guess the most outrageous accusation here is that, you know, how could a commander-in-chief be sending forces into combat if he thinks that they're going to fail? What does that say about our commander-in-chief? What should military families be thinking about hearing that?
They should think that their commander-in-chief had questions, and he was questioning the strategy all along, making sure that it was effective, that it was the right choice for their children as they were in combat. And I think that's evidence of someone who is thoughtful and who is not arrogant and not throwing people under the bus, but thinking about the best course for America.
Let's give some texture to this. Pat Buchanan, if you remember, we talked about it a lot on this program. There was a lot of talk. These military leaders wanted 50,000 or 60,000 troops. The president couldn't make a decision. He was dithering. That was the phrase everybody was using. He decided, remember, they said if we don't get that amount of troops, we risk failure in Afghanistan. The president only gave them 30,000. Is that because he wasn't convinced they could win?
I'll tell you, Sean, that's the most serious charge I've seen about the book, is that Secretary Gates says that the President of the United States sent 33,000 American troops on a mission in which he did not believe, namely the rescue of Afghanistan. And that is a very awful suggestion about the President of the United States. Gates does come back later and say, I believe the President made the right decision. But he does, in effect, say, I believe the president really didn't believe in the mission on which he sent these young Americans to fight and die.
But isn't it deeper than that? If he's convinced they would fail, and he sent them there without the troop level that was requested by the military, wasn't that a scenario where he's putting them in a position of being a sitting duck?
Well, it's something of that nature. Look, you're right. If you don't believe in the mission, you don't send anyone. And did he think that the 40,000 that were requested, I believe, by McChrystal,
I think it was 50.
Did he believe they would? Yeah, it was 50. Okay, it was 50. But did he believe they would succeed? What Gates is saying is, in my mind, I don't think the president believed we could succeed. And that's a terrible charge to make against the president when he's sending 33,000 guys to fight and bleed and die for a cause he does not think is going to succeed.
And Patrick, can I interrupt you for a moment and just say, let's look at the facts. The facts, Patrick, are these. The fact is the president did send the troops on a major surge to Afghanistan. No, the military will always ask for more. He sent 30,000. And let me just say this. He did this despite overwhelming disapproval from the American people. The American people, and I would say, and I'd specify this to you, Sean Hannity, overwhelming numbers of Republicans think that we should not have been there.
Juan Williams, wait a minute. If you're going to send men and women, American sons and daughters, in a harm's way, and you are not convinced they're going to win, you have no business sending them there. Period. End of
course
sentence.
that's not true. That's not true. What did President Bush do in Iraq?
Juan, let me respond to you. Look,
Certainly,
I want to respond to what you said. Look, if the President of the United States believes it is virtually a hopeless mission in Afghanistan, that it cannot be retrieved, okay, he didn't say that, but he didn't believe in the mission. If you don't believe in the mission, why would you send soldiers to fight and die in a cause you don't think can succeed?
No, he didn't say that he didn't think the cause couldn't succeed. He questioned the strategy. And as you point out, Bob Gates comes back in his book and says, ultimately, you know, I think the president made the right choice.
How are you going to spin this?
That's Gates' view. Gates thought it could succeed, but the president, apparently in Gates' mind, did not think it would succeed, but nevertheless sent these soldiers in.
What about the revelation? Hang on. What about the revelation in the book where Hillary Clinton told the president she opposed the surge in 2007 for purely political reasons, and that the president himself did the same? What does that say about these people, Juan?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it says. It says Gates is a total naif. I can't believe that he thinks that the people who run for office in this country don't make political judgments, don't look at polls. And to reiterate, most Republicans, as well as most Democrats, think that we are made a mistake by being in Afghanistan.
We're talking about the lives of American children.
Juan, we are talking about war. Juan, we are talking about a war. That was in Iraq, whether or not you're going to lose or win a war. And the two of them said, look, we took the position we did against sending the surge of troops because that's the right thing to do in the Iowa caucuses.
Good grief.
They were making political judgments. I think the two of you forget that this is a Washington ritual. You forget that even during the Bush administration, that Richard Clarke, the anti-terrorist czar, said President Bush was fixated on going into Iraq even before 9/11, and everybody says, what is this guy talking about? This is what you get when you solicit
Juan,
different opinions
you are
and smart people.
The inexcusable here, because if you're making a decision about a war that's being fought because of your political ambition, and our sons and daughters are going there and losing their lives and losing their limbs fighting for our country, that in and of itself should disqualify anybody for ever having a position of power and public service.
Juan, let me tell you, Juan, that your party, Richard Nixon, believed in Vietnam, and your party didn't, and they said if he didn't, they should have brought the troops out of Vietnam the day he took office. He believed in it. What we are hearing from Gates is you got a president who did not believe in either war he inherited, yet with Afghanistan, he went and sent 33,000 more troops into a war in which he did not believe in the mission.
All right,
and he did that because the American people and the military said, let's do this, and the president supported his military despite the political advantage that was to be gained by pulling out. The president did what's right.
Thank you both. I wish we had more time. Before we go, by the way, quick programming note on this topic. Be sure to tune in this coming Tuesday night